First contact. The anomaly appeared on a routine sweep of the Kuiper Belt, a blip so faint that 3 different verification algorithms dismissed it as background noise. But Dr. Sarah Chen, lead astronomer at the Deep Space Listening Array, knew better. 20 years of staring into the void had taught her to trust her instincts. "Run it again," she commanded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The massive radio telescope array, spread across the lunar far side, realigned itself with microscopic precision. This time, the signal was unmistakable, a perfect geometric pattern, pulsing with artificial regularity against the cosmic background radiation. Within hours, the entire scientific community was ablaze. The object was decelerating, using some form of electromagnetic field that defied known physics. Its trajectory suggested deliberate control, and its destination was clear: Earth's orbit. Major General David Reeves stood in the Pentagon's upgraded command center, surrounded by real-time projections of the object's approach. "Options?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's first potential contact scenario. "It's small, sir," Colonel Zhang reported, manipulating the holographic display. "No more than 30 meters in length. Mass readings suggest it's primarily composed of exotic materials we can't identify. But here's the kicker: it's broadcasting." The message was elegant in its simplicity: mathematical sequences, basic physical constants, and a repeating pattern that any spacefaring civilization would recognize as a peaceful greeting. But buried within the transmission was something else: fear. Dr. Chen's team was the first to decode it. "They're running from something," she announced to the emergency UN Security Council meeting. "The probe contains technical specifications for weapons we can barely comprehend, defensive systems beyond our current engineering capabilities, and a warning encoded in its very atomic structure." The probe entered Earth orbit exactly 1 month after its detection. It made no attempt to hide or evade the hastily assembled defense platforms. Instead, it transmitted detailed instructions for its safe retrieval. The International Retrieval Mission was a testament to how quickly humanity could unite when faced with the extraordinary. The Chinese provided the space station, the Americans the retrieval vehicle, the Europeans the containment systems, and the Russians the transport shuttle. Everyone else contributed specialists, resources, or support. When the probe's outer shell was finally opened aboard the International Space Station Beta, humanity collectively held its breath. Inside was a technological treasure trove: quantum computers that made Earth's most advanced systems look like abacuses, energy systems that could power cities from a device the size of a coffee cup, and medical technology that could potentially end disease as we knew it. But the real prize was the message crystal, a lattice of engineered crystals that contained the full story of their benefactors. Dr. Chen spent weeks working with the crystal's interface before making the breakthrough that would change humanity forever. "They call themselves the Preservers," she explained to the assembled world leaders. "They're a species that achieved interstellar travel 5,000 years ago, but now they're facing extinction. Something is hunting them, hunting all advanced civilizations. They found the ruins of dozens of species, all destroyed in the same way." The crystal contained more than just warnings. It held the accumulated knowledge of a civilization that had spent millennia preparing for a threat they knew would eventually find them. They hadn't sent the probe to ask for help. They'd sent it to give humanity a fighting chance. "They've given us everything," General Reeves said, reviewing the technical specifications: weapons, shields, faster-than-light theory. "But more importantly, they've given us time. The threat that's hunting them hasn't detected us yet. We have a window of opportunity they never had." The decision was unanimous. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth agreed to a single purpose. Operation Legacy was born, a project to build a defense fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. As humanity began its greatest undertaking, Dr. Chen made one final discovery in the crystal's data. The Preservers hadn't just sent their probe randomly into space. They'd chosen Earth specifically, after years of covered observation. Their message was clear: Of all the species they'd encountered, humans possessed something unique, an unmatched capacity for innovation when faced with impossible odds. The probe had carried a gift of technology, but it had also carried a burden of responsibility. Humanity would not only fight for its own survival, but for the survival of their mysterious benefactors as well. The next 5 years would transform human civilization more than the previous 5,000. And somewhere in deep space, the threat that had driven an advanced civilization to such desperate measures continued its relentless advance, unaware that its next target had been given the tools and warning it needed to fight back. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human ascension was about to begin. The Grand Project. Mars gleamed under Earth's new orbital shipyards, its red surface dotted with the bright lights of manufacturing complexes. In just 18 months, humanity had accomplished what once seemed impossible, transforming the solar system into an industrial powerhouse. Admiral James Chen, Sarah Chen's brother, stood at the observation deck of Unity Station, watching as another capital ship took shape in the sprawling construction arrays. The vessel's quantum alloy hull absorbed light in impossible ways, making it seem like a piece of space had been cut away and replaced with something darker. The Hyperion will be ready for trials next week, Commander Diana Rodriguez reported, her augmented reality display projecting the ship's specifications between them. That makes 15 capital ships completed. We're ahead of schedule. Schedule means nothing if we can't make them fight, James replied, his mind on the morning's combat simulations. The Preserver's technology had given them the tools, but learning to use them effectively was proving to be another challenge entirely. Below them, Earth had transformed. The quantum energy systems from the probe had eliminated energy scarcity overnight. Cities had been rebuilt with materials that defied conventional physics. But the greatest change wasn't physical. It was psychological. Humanity had united with a purpose, their petty differences forgotten in the face of extinction. The Global Defense Council, headquartered in the sprawling Unity complex in Geneva, coordinated the largest engineering project in human history. Dr. Chen led the research division, working to unlock more secrets from the crystal matrix while simultaneously pushing the boundaries of human innovation. They gave us the foundation, Sarah often said during council meetings, but they're expecting us to build something new, something they couldn't imagine. She was right. Human engineers had already begun improving upon the Preserver designs. Where their benefactors had focused on defensive technology, humanity's innovations leaned toward the offensive. The Preservers had built shields to weather any storm. Humans were building hammers to shatter them. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Tokyo, discovered that the Preserver's faster-than-light theory had an unexplored offensive application. By inverting the field geometry, they could create weapons that ignored conventional defenses entirely. The physics are sound, she explained to the council, her excitement barely contained. We're not just building a fleet to survive, we're building one that can win. But victory required more than just technology. The fleet needed crews, and humanity needed warriors who could think in new dimensions. The Global Military Academy was established, combining the best training methods from every nation with neural interface technology derived from the Preserver's data. Pilots learned to merge with their ships, their consciousness expanding to encompass vessels larger than cities. Tactical officers trained in combat scenarios that broke the laws of conventional physics. Engineering teams learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, rebuilding ships mid-battle. The Academy's first graduating class stood at attention as General Reeves, now Fleet Commander Reeves, delivered their commissioning speech. You are no longer American, Chinese, Russian, or European. You are human warriors, the first of your kind. The burden you carry is not just Earth's survival, but the survival of those who trusted us with their legacy. In high orbit, the first fleet exercises demonstrated the fruition of their efforts. Ships danced through space in formations that would have been impossible years ago, their quantum drives bending reality around them. Energy weapons that could crack planets were wielded with surgical precision. But amidst the triumph of human achievement, Dr. Chen made a disturbing discovery in the crystal's deeper layers. The preservers hadn't just been running from their hunter. They'd been searching for something. Their observations of Earth had been part of a larger pattern, a desperate quest to find species with specific characteristics. They weren't just giving us technology, she revealed to her brother during a rare private moment. They were following a plan centuries in the making. We're part of something bigger, James. Something even they might not fully understand. As the fleet grew and humanity's power expanded, questions lingered. Why had the preservers chosen humanity? What made Earth special among countless worlds? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected, and it would reshape their understanding of not just the threat they faced, but their own place in the cosmos. In the shipyards, the Hyperion's quantum core hummed to life for the first time. Its energy signature rippled through subspace, detectable light years away. Like a beacon in the night, it signaled humanity's readiness for war. But in the darkness between stars, something else detected that signal, something that had been waiting, watching, hunting. The game of cat and mouse was about to change. Humanity was no longer the mouse, and they weren't planning to simply run away. Dark Horizons, the quantum decryption matrix, had been running for 3 years, unraveling the deepest layers of the preserver's warning crystal. Dr. Sarah Chen sat alone in her laboratory aboard Unity Station, watching as the final encryption barriers dissolved. What she saw made her blood run cold. The threat wasn't just a hostile species, it was something far worse. The preservers had called them the Convergence, a vast collective consciousness that absorbed entire civilizations into its neural network. Each species it consumed added to its knowledge, its power, and its hunger for more. "Show me everything," she commanded, and a holographic display exploded with information. The Convergence had once been a single species that achieved digital immortality, transferring their consciousness into a vast quantum network. But immortality brought stagnation, and stagnation bred desperation. They began absorbing other species, seeking new perspectives, new ways of thinking. Within hours, the Global Defense Council convened an emergency session. Fleet Commander Reeves stood before the assembled leaders, his face grim as the tactical displays showed the Convergence's predicted approach vectors. "They're coming from 2 directions," he announced, highlighting vast sections of space. "One fleet heads toward the Preserver's home system. The other," he paused, letting the implications sink in. "The other is coming here." Admiral James Chen studied the tactical projections. "They're not just coming to destroy us. They want to absorb us, add our consciousness to their network, everything we are, everything we could be. They want to make it part of themselves." The revelation sparked a new understanding of the Preserver's actions. They hadn't just chosen humanity for their potential as warriors. They'd recognized something unique in human consciousness itself, something the Convergence wanted, and something worth protecting at all costs. Dr. Tanaka's quantum labs had made another breakthrough. "Human consciousness has a unique quantum signature," she explained, her hands moving through complex holographic models. "Our ability to innovate, to make intuitive leaps of logic. It's not just psychological. It's fundamental to our quantum neural structure." The Preservers had seen this, studied it, and recognized its value. Their gift of technology wasn't just about saving humanity. It was about preserving this unique trait that the Convergence so desperately sought to consume. But with understanding came opportunity. Commander Rodriguez led a team that began developing new weapons based on this knowledge. If human consciousness had a unique quantum signature, perhaps it could be weaponized against a consciousness-based enemy. "We're not just building ships anymore," she declared to her engineering teams. "We're building quantum consciousness disruptors, weapons that don't just destroy bodies. They shatter the very network that makes the Convergence what it is." Deep in the outer solar system, the first early warning beacons began detecting disturbances in quantum space. The Convergence wasn't bothering to hide its approach. Like a force of nature, it moved with the inexorable certainty of a predator that had never known defeat. Fleet Commander Reeves called together his battle group commanders. "We face an enemy that has consumed thousands of civilizations," he began, his voice carrying across the quantum-linked conference. "They think they know every possible strategy, every potential innovation. But they've never faced humanity. We don't play by their rules. We make our own." The plan that emerged was audacious. Humanity would split its forces, just as the Convergence had. One fleet would race to the aid of the Preservers, carrying with it the quantum consciousness disruptors and the hope of saving their benefactors. The other would stand ready to defend Earth, but not in the way the Convergence would expect. Dr. Chen made one final discovery in the crystal's data, a map of quantum space nodes where the Convergence's network was most vulnerable, points where their vast consciousness could be fragmented, isolated, and potentially destroyed. It wasn't just a defensive strategy. It was a chance to end the threat once and for all. As the quantum sensors tracked the Convergence's approach, humanity prepared for a war unlike any in history. It would be fought not just with ships and weapons, but with consciousness itself, the very trait that made humans valuable to both the Preservers and the Convergence would become the key to victory, or the prize in their destruction. In the shipyards, the final preparations were made. The fleet that would aid the Preservers, designated Task Force Prometheus, made ready to depart. The defensive fleet, Task Force Aegis, moved into position around Earth. Every ship carried weapons that existed only in theory months ago, powered by human innovation and desperation. The countdown to engagement had begun. Humanity would soon face its greatest test, not just of military might or technological prowess, but of the very essence that made them unique in the cosmos. The war for consciousness itself was about to begin. The two-front war. Task Force Prometheus dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Preserver system, 40 ships strong. Admiral James Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Hyperion, watching as his fleet's sensors painted a picture of devastation. The Convergence had already begun its assault. The Preserver's home system was a technological marvel, orbital rings around multiple planets, Dyson swarms harvesting energy from their star, and massive space habitats housing billions. But now those structures were under attack by ships that seemed to defy reality itself, their forms shifting and flowing like liquid metal. Multiple Convergence signatures detected, his tactical officer reported. They're trying to interface with the Preserver's defense networks, attempting to absorb their technology directly. James opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, execute Operation Firewall. Deploy quantum consciousness disruptors at predetermined coordinates. His voice was steady, but his heart raced. They had arrived just in time. Back in Earth's solar system, Fleet Commander Reeves watched as Task Force Aegis implemented their own desperate strategy. Rather than forming a defensive shell around Earth, the ships had scattered throughout the system, each one emanating the unique quantum signature designed to confuse and divide the approaching Convergence fleet. Dr. Chen's voice came through on a secure channel. The quantum signatures are working. Their scout ships are splitting up, trying to investigate each source individually. They think they've found multiple species, multiple consciousness types to absorb. The trap was set. But now came the hard part. In the Preserver system, the battle erupted in ways that defied conventional physics. The Convergence ships attacked like a virus, attempting to merge with any technology they touched. But humanity's quantum consciousness disruptors created zones of chaos in their network, forcing them to fight as individuals rather than a collective. They're adapting. Commander Rodriguez reported from her position leading the fighter squadrons. But so are we. Her pilots executed maneuvers that would have been impossible months ago, their neural interfaces allowing them to react at quantum speeds. The Preservers, seeing unexpected allies arriving in their darkest hour, launched a counterattack. Their defensive platforms, previously overwhelmed, found new purpose when synchronized with human battle strategies. What the Convergence had expected to be an easy absorption turned into a grinding battle of attrition. Around Earth, the first wave of convergent ships fell for the deception completely. They dispersed throughout the solar system, each seeking what they thought were unique consciousness signatures to absorb. Instead, they found carefully laid traps. Execute Phase 2, Reeves commanded. The scattered human ships suddenly activated their quantum drives in perfect synchronization. The resulting energy wave created a cascading disruption in quantum space, trapping the convergent ships in isolated pockets where they could be engaged one by one. Dr. Tanaka's voice cut through the tactical chatter. The quantum isolation is working. Their network is fragmenting. Each ship is being forced to operate independently. But the convergence hadn't consumed thousands of civilizations by being predictable. In both systems, their ships began to display new tactics, combining the knowledge of countless absorbed species in ways that had never been seen before. In the Preserver system, James watched as convergent ships started merging together, forming massive battle platforms that could absorb tremendous damage. All ships implement Adaptation Protocol 0. They want to play rough. Let's show them what human inspiration looks like under pressure. The human fleet's response was characteristic of their species. They improvised. Ships linked their quantum fields in new configurations, creating weapons on the fly that couldn't have been predicted or defended against. The Preservers, witnessing this display of spontaneous innovation, began to mirror the technique with their own technology. Around Earth, the trapped convergent ships attempted to re-establish their network by emitting quantum signals on frequencies that should have been impossible. But Dr. Chen had anticipated this. The quantum consciousness disruptors adapted in real time, their algorithms enhanced by human intuition and creativity. They're not just fighting us, Reeves realized as he watched the battle unfold. They're fighting everything that makes us human. Our unpredictability, our creativity, our ability to cooperate without losing our individuality. The battles in both systems reached their climax simultaneously. In the Preserver system, Task Force Prometheus and their allies pushed the convergence back from the vital orbital infrastructure, their quantum weapons tearing holes in the enemy's collective consciousness. Around Earth, Task Force Aegis sprung the final part of their trap. The isolated convergent ships, unable to support each other, found themselves caught in a web of quantum disruption fields that grew stronger with each passing moment. Their consciousness network, stretched thin and fragmented, began to collapse. But victory would not come without cost. Ships were lost on both fronts, their crews making the ultimate sacrifice to protect not just humanity, but the very essence of individual consciousness itself. The war wasn't over, but a critical moment had arrived, one that would determine the fate of not just two civilizations, but of free will itself in the galaxy. Legacy of Two Worlds. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in Unity Station's quantum lab, her eyes fixed on the streams of data flowing from both battlefronts. Something in the convergence's behavior patterns had caught her attention, a flaw in their perfect system that no one had noticed before. Their greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. They can't truly innovate, she whispered, the realization striking her like lightning. They can combine, they can adapt, but they can't create something genuinely new. They can only recombine what they've already absorbed. She immediately opened channels to both fleets. The quantum communications network, enhanced by Preserver technology, carried her voice across light years without delay. The convergence isn't evolving. It's just recombining old patterns. That's why they need us. That's why they need to absorb new consciousness. In the Preserver system, Admiral James Chen received his sister's revelation while watching another wave of convergent ships attempt to merge into new configurations. All ships execute pattern randomization protocol. Don't just fight, innovate. Show them something they've never seen before. The human fleet responded with characteristic creativity. Ships began moving in formations that defied tactical logic, their quantum weapons firing in synchronized patterns that created cascading disruptions in the enemy's network. Each captain added their own twist to the battle plan, creating a chaotic symphony of destruction that the convergence couldn't predict or counter. Around Earth, Fleet Commander Reeves took the insight one step further. All ships initiate consciousness broadcast. Full spectrum, maximum power. Let's give them exactly what they want. More than they can handle. Task Force Aegis began broadcasting the quantum signatures of human consciousness at overwhelming power. But these weren't simple recordings. They were live feeds of human minds working in perfect chaos, billions of individual thoughts and innovations occurring simultaneously. The convergence, drawn to this feast of consciousness like moths to flame, found themselves overwhelmed. Their network, designed to absorb and integrate new patterns, began to overload from the sheer unpredictability of human thought. Dr. Tanaka's voice cut through the tactical channels. It's working. Their network can't process this much random innovation. They're experiencing a form of consciousness cascade failure. In the preserver system, the effect was even more dramatic. The preservers, inspired by humanity's example, began adding their own consciousness broadcasts to the mix. The combined weight of two species' worth of creativity and innovation proved too much for the convergence to handle. Commander Rodriguez, leading another fighter squadron attack, watched in awe as convergent ships began to break apart, their liquid metal forms solidifying and shattering. They can't maintain cohesion. The network is collapsing. But victory came with a startling discovery. As the convergent ships failed, their network didn't simply dissolve. It released its absorbed consciousness. Billions of minds, trapped for millennia in the collective, began to break free. They're not just disintegrating, Dr. Chen reported, her voice filled with wonder. They're liberating every consciousness the convergence ever absorbed. We're witnessing the largest prison break in galactic history. The preservers were the first to adapt to this unexpected development. Their massive habitat rings, designed to house billions, began receiving and storing the released consciousness patterns. Humanity's quantum computers, originally designed for warfare, were quickly repurposed to help sort and preserve these ancient minds. In Earth's solar system, the victory was total. The isolated convergent ships, overwhelmed by the broadcast assault of human consciousness, collapsed one by one. Their remnants, still containing countless absorbed minds, were carefully collected for later restoration. The war ended not with the extinction of an enemy, but with the liberation of countless civilizations. The preservers in humanity found themselves as custodians of an unprecedented archaeological and anthropological treasure, the preserved consciousness of thousands of ancient species. Months later, aboard Unity Station, Dr. Chen presented her findings to a joint council of human and preserver leaders. The convergence arose from a fear of stagnation, a desire to continue growing and evolving. But they forgot the most important lesson. True growth comes from creation, not consumption. Admiral Chen, standing beside his sister, added, "They sought to absorb consciousness to gain innovation, but innovation can't be stolen. It has to be nurtured, encouraged, and most importantly, kept free." The aftermath of the war brought changes no one had expected. The liberated consciousness patterns, stored in quantum matrices, began to be restored. Ancient species, long thought lost to the convergence, were given new life through advanced bioprinting technology. The galaxy was about to become a much more diverse and interesting place. But perhaps the most profound change was in how both humanity and the preservers viewed themselves. They had faced extinction and emerged not just victorious, but as the saviors of countless civilizations. Their alliance, forged in the heat of battle, would become the foundation for a new galactic society, one built on the principles of individual creativity and collective cooperation. As the first of the restored species began to awaken, humanity prepared to welcome them into a galaxy very different from the one they had lost. The age of the convergence was over. The age of innovation, of true growth and collaboration, was about to begin. In the depths of space, the last fragments of the convergence network drifted into darkness. They had sought to consume the light of consciousness across the galaxy, but in the end, They had been overwhelmed by the one thing they could never truly absorb, the boundless creativity of free minds working together.